I've been thinking a lot about adaptation lately, and I thought this might make for a good SanderFAQ. What makes a good adaptation? This is obviously something that is very important to me. I sold my first film rights to a book. First ones I actually sold ever were the Alcatraz vs. the Evil Librarian series. And I sold that book series like in 2007. And soon after, I sold Mistborn for the first time. And I'm a movie lover. I'm not sure if you can count me as a film buff, because I'm not good at watching all of the Oscar films and all of the very interesting art house films that come out. But I do love movies. I love going to movies. I love the experience of movies. I enjoy the cinema. One of the first things I did when I had enough money is I built my own theater for my house that's really cool. And so I do love movies, and I think a lot about what makes a good adaptation. And for years, my go-to answer of what makes a good adaptation was keeping the soul of the story, but adapting it to the new medium. Film is different from books in a lot of ways.
I'm gonna do it.
Movie.
Well, I'm gonna do a book. Oh.
And I've always noticed that certain adaptations that tried too hard to be beat by beat what the book was doing ended up failing. A famous failure is The Golden Compass. The Golden Compass is not a good film, but it is a interesting failure of a film, because I watched that film and I fully believe that the creators were passionate about the source material. I believe the actors were perfectly cast. I believe that all the work was done for world building that needed to be done. And that much passion, that much work, and they tried really hard to stay true to the story, and the movie failed. And this was, when I watched it, was really interesting to me, because the way I think it failed was in trying to get so much of the book into the film that they essentially had to stop showing and start telling, because telling people things is much easier. A voiceover prologue can give you way more information than taking all the time to build up character and have scenes that evoke emotion and whatnot. And The Golden Compass, because it had so much ground to cover, has a whole lot of scenes of people just stopping and talking about what's going on with them, because it covers more ground more quickly. They tried, number one, I think, to make The Golden Compass too short. Epic fantasy films need more space to breathe than the time that film was given. But beyond that, I feel like they tried to do too much. They tried to do too much of the book. I feel a little bit of this in the early Harry Potter films, though I do not put this on the filmmakers at all. Harry Potter was one of those things that they needed to get right, and they knew if they just went beat by beat what was in the books, they would end up having an adaptation that was at least acceptable. And those films, those first two films, are beyond acceptable. They are good. But movie 3 is when they get real good. And that's when they had to adapt. That's when they had to say, we can't fit everything that's in the book into the film, so let's take one concept of the book and make that central and tell that story. I would always say before, that makes a good adaptation. But on the other hand, there are adaptations that stay a lot closer. Game of Thrones early seasons are, in some instances, like scene by scene, the books. And even The Lord of the Rings, which I'm rereading right now and gaining a deeper appreciation for the work that Peter Jackson and his team did in creating those adaptations are spectacular. There are very few scenes they've actually cut from the books. They've combined a whole lot of scenes. They have streamlined a whole lot of scenes. They've moved scenes around here and there, but there's very little that they ended up having to cut. Now, the theatrical release of The Fellowship of the Ring was still 3 hours long, and that's partially why, that extra hour. But I don't think an adaptation has to stray far. But it does have to do what Peter Jackson did, which is know what story it's telling.
I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Come on!
A novel can tell a lot of different stories. They just can. We have 200,000 words, or 400,000 if it's a Stormlight book. We have so much space that we can take time and go off on a tangent for a little while and explore it and dig deep, and that's why we love books. They are not constrained in the same way. A film, though, a film needs to hit a central idea. And as I'm working on the Mistborn films myself, this has been one of the key things I've realized. The Mistborn, the book, can divide its time between Kelsier and Vin, between the heist and her coming-of-age story. And all of that will be in the movie. But the movie needs to know what it's telling, and this movie is telling Vin's story. And so I want to reframe all of that for a tighter narrative looking at her story. But what I found is I can take almost every scene from the book and I can bring them in and use them in some way. What makes a good adaptation? It is keeping to the soul of the story and not throwing anything away from the original without good reason. But that good reason can be it's a new medium, you just have to do it differently.